I want to ask you how to know among the 72 ways of Islam actual.
Which one is the right one?
Why the Ahmediyya community is the right one?
Yes, very good. I'll explain. This question was put to Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was asked long before, about 1400 some years before, and was put direct to Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So his answer is obviously the best answer. You understand that point? No better answer could be expected by you than an answer which has already been given by Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the founder of Islam. This difficult question very easy, although the question is very difficult, particularly for a newcomer to Islam like you are, to find Islam divided into 72 sects plus one community. So it's not the question of whether the Ahmediyya community is right or they are right. It is an open question for everybody. Out of the 73, one is Jamaat Ahmediyya and 72 are the sects. So each one claims to be the heavenly sect. For a newcomer who has got converted from Christianity or other religions, it's a big confusion and very difficult judgment to make. Is that correct? So look at the greatness of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How easy he made it for us. How simplified. When one of the companions asked the same thing, O Prophet of God, which one out of the 73 is the heavenly sect and which are the hellish sects as you have described? Now this has a background, this question. Just before this question was asked, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was predicting about Islam ultimately being divided into 72 sects. And one Jamaat is the word used by him, would be on top of the 72 sects that would be distinct and separate. And also he said that the 72 would go to hell and one Jamaat will be heavenly. These are exactly the words of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam as translated by me. So in this background, somebody got worried and put this question to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam: who would be that fortunate sect? How could we find out? Very difficult question indeed. But look at the answer. He said, Ma ana alayhi wa ashabi. So simplified. He said, why should you be in doubt about the sect who would go to heaven? Whomever you find in the same state in which you find me and my followers, of course that would be the heavenly sect. Do you understand the full insight? What was the state in which he was found? And who was responsible for that state? If you answer this question or understand the answer of this question, the matter is so simplified. Hazrat Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his followers were not permitted to say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. They were being thoroughly beaten, dragged in the stony streets of Mecca, and they were sometimes put to extreme tortures which human beings or the beastly beings can invent. All sorts of tortures were invented, and the followers were put to these tortures for the crime of saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. They were forbidden. Which is the sect? Now I put back the question to you. Today, who is not permitted in a Muslim country to to say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and to write it on that sect's mosques. Do you know the answer? Which one? Ahmadiyya. None of them. They have their animosities, hostilities between them. Each sect hates the other. There is no doubt. Each sect declares the other to be an infidel. But each permits the other the use of kalima. The only sect which is distinguished, stands alone, is Ahmadiyya Jamaat. The government agencies come along with the mullahs and they wipe the kalima out themselves because the Ahmadis don't acquiesce to the demand. They say whatever you do, we're not going to agree to this. So one thing is decided very clearly, is that not? That this state in which Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his followers were found, this is only applicable to the Ahmadiyya community. Agreed? Right. He was not permitted, and his followers were not permitted to build mosques. And it is on record that Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, Razillah Ta'ala anhu, the would-be Caliph of Islam, during the Meccan days, built a mosque in his own courtyard because the Muslims were not permitted to build mosques outside of the public. Even he was mocked in his own courtyard. People broke the wall and went in and said, "What do we see here? You are not permitted to build a mosque, even in your own courtyard." Exactly the same thing repeated in Karachi a few months ago. Well, this has been happening. Ahmadi mosques have been demolished, burnt out, razed to ground. That is a common story everywhere. But this particular incident got repeated word for word in Kurangi town in Karachi. They mocked an Ahmadi house and they said, "You are saying your prayers in this house, you are converting into a mosque. We will not permit that. We are hurt, deeply insulted if an Ahmadi begins to say prayer of congregation in his own house." So the poor children and the family were given refuge in the neighbor's house. They had to quietly, steadily removed from the premises because of the danger to their life and honor. So this is a common story. Now tell me, which other sect enjoys this state to your knowledge? None of us. This is Ahmadiyya community. Again, the Ahmadis are told that we are not going to accept you as Muslim, so you are not permitted even to name yourselves as Muslim. It is we who have the right to name you, and we have named you either Mirzais or Qadianis. Not even Ahmadis. Muslim is out of question. But within Islam, we won't permit you even to name your sect. So the question of calling yourself Muslims or Ahmadis is ruled out. So admit yourself to be Mirzais or Qadianis and that is all there is to it. In Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's times, the Muslims were treated exactly alike. They were told, and the Holy Quran records this, they were told that your name is Sabi. Tradition speaks of this in detail and tells us that at one occasion Hazrat Umar Siddiq, Hazrat Umar Farooq Razillah Ta'ala anhu, the would-be second caliph of Islam, when he went to Khana Kaaba, that is the holy place of worship in Mecca, he got somebody with him to declare that Hazrat Umar had become a Muslim. So when he declared this, that Umar says he has become a Muslim, he was mobbed and thoroughly beaten. They said he can say himself, call himself Swabi. That is okay, we permit that. Because we have named them Sabis. But to declare themselves to be Muslims, that is preposterous. We are not going to permit that. So another companion of Muhammad was beaten so thoroughly just for the crime of declaring himself to be Muslim that he records it himself, that I lost my sight and I did not know which way I was running. But he was so thoroughly beaten, so smashed in my face that I couldn't see the direction, but I ran in one direction. I don't know how I got saved ultimately. So this is the punishment which has been meted out to Ahmadis. Just for declaring themselves Muslims, they have been jailed in Pakistan, they have been thrown into filthy lavatories and locked in those lavatories by the police. This is your punishment. You still insist on calling yourself Muslims? So taste this punishment. Is there any other sect who is being treated like that? For calling themselves Muslims? Are they punished like this? If you know everything, I don't know. None other does, because this is the only sect. We are not permitted even to say prayer. I mean, this is the demand. We are declared as renegades. And the punishment for the renegades is, according to these mullahs, stoning to death or killing by anybody. Daily we receive reports from Pakistan that under that martial law regime, which is extremely sensitive to its own criticism, even the slightest finger raised against them is cut. Is so permissive in about Maulvis, declaring Ahmadis' lives and properties confiscated in the right of Islam. They do not mind. The mullah goes on preaching everybody that they are not forbidden for you. In fact, if you kill an Ahmadi, you would go straight to heaven. This has been going on, and nobody checks, nobody minds. And this is exactly the state of affairs in which Muhammad and his followers found themselves. It was openly declared that whoever kills a Muslim, the follower of Muhammad Mustafa would do a good deed, would be rewarded for that deed. It will be a commendable act. You can loot their property, you can occupy their homes, you can dishonor their ladies, whatever you please. This is all permissible. That is correct, isn't it? And this is happening to Ahmadis. So much so that ultimately some of the officers have got fed up of this nonsense. They themselves have started showing reaction to this, because cruelty, after all, has its effect on human nature. And sometimes those who observe cruelty, they reach a threshold, beyond that they cannot tolerate it. So I just received the report from a martial law administrator who, after tolerating it for some time in his region, because people, the mullah there in that region were very hostile and they treated Ahmadis so abusively that it went beyond the limit of his toleration at last. So he called the mullah and told them, look here, you are telling every Muslim in the region to kill Ahmadis so that they could go to the heaven, the killers. So he said, now I'm telling you, this is beyond my toleration now. Now I'm telling you that before they are sent to heaven by you, I'm going to send you to heaven. That is myself. So prepare yourself for that heaven. Because if you do that again, I'm going to treat you very, very severely. That is, they are breaking down themselves. Like many, an opponent of Huzur ultimately broke down to this truth. Hazrat Umar Farooq became a Muslim just because of this pressure built upon the cruel, further inhuman treatment of the oppressor or the oppressed. An oppressor breaks down seeing the cruelty done to the oppressed. This is exactly what happened to Hazrat Umar Siddiq, Hazrat Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala. So count things one after the other, and all of them will be found together in one Jamaat, that is Jamaat Ahmediyya. So much so that even the Hajj of Jamaat Ahmediyya is forbidden. You know that? No, alright, then you learn it now. That in 74, while we were declared as non-Muslims, in the same year, we were forbidden to perform Hajj by the Pakistan government as well as by the Saudi government, at least for Pakistanis. They generally close their eyes to other Ahmadis coming from other directions, if they can afford to. But if the matter is taken openly, then they can't help it. They have to prevent Ahmadis from performing Hajj. And do you know the first person in history who is known to have been prevented from performing Hajj? Who he was? You know that? In Sulh Hudaybiyah. Hudaybiyah is the place where this ultimate agreement was signed between the two groups, that is Rasul and the Meccans. That it is known in the name of that field, which is called the field of Hudaybiyah. So it was there that he was prevented to go further in the direction of Mecca. And after that, now as a sect, we have been forbidden. So all these things speak for themselves. And this is the beauty of the answer, that for these things you do not have to be a learned person. Because if out of 73 only one was a sect, heavenly sect, then it was binding for every Muslim to find out which one was that. And lack of knowledge should not have been permitted to stand in the way of finding the truth. Otherwise, an illiterate person could complain to God that, look here, you made me born in illiterate family, and it was impossible for me to find out the truth after studying the Holy Quran, the traditions, the various sects, their differences, their comparative arguments, and so on and so forth. Even if I had devoted the whole lifetime to this pursuit, I could not have achieved it. That's quite natural. So Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam saved us from all this botheration by giving an answer which can be equally understood by the literate as well as illiterate, by the black as well as the white, because this is a history of Islam which is known to everyone. Every Muslim, right from the childhood, is taught that this is what was happening to Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So even in the remotest villages of Africa, in the darkest corners of Africa, they can see light through this pointer of our Guru sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I think this is the best proof that we have of our truth, of our being on the right. But if you want to further investigate, then the books are available on every subject. Anything you like, you can have it there in German, in Spanish. Although you don't have enough literature in Spanish, but you understand German all right, and French is there, and English, I think, to a great extent. So anything in particular, if it is agitating your mind, can be sorted out by studying. But generally speaking, I think this is the best answer that I can give.
Give some books to himself in Spanish.
But hope you have followed me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.